everybody, this is Mrs. Gaines reading you chapter 17. I hope you're enjoying the book so far. Let's have a little look then. They mean to bring us down, Lily yelled. Take evasive action, turn the ship around. Anna grabbed the helm from Robert, spinning the wheel 360 degrees, and slowly Ladybird began to pivot to face the opposite direction. Robert examined the instrument panel on the binnacle. The pressure gauge needle was tipping towards the 0 mark. We've got no steam to outrun them, he told Anna. Then go stoke the boiler, both of you. She glanced at Lily. Throw in everything you can. Stay with Anna, Melkin, Lily cried, and she and Robert rushed down the corridor. In the engine room, Robert threw open the door, and furnace started hastily heaping in coal. Lily grabbed a spare shovel to help. The dark shape of bear moth loomed outside the starboard portholes, its spiked hull heading straight for the heart of their ship. Ladybird had almost turned 360 when, thud! She was hit by a harpoon. The cabin rocked back and forth, and there was a long, low scraping as Bearmouth began winching her arm. Lily and Robert steadied themselves and threw spadefuls of coal into the furnace. The engine pistons sped up, pumping frantically, but still Bearmouth tightened her winch rope. Malkin dashed through and ran back and forth between them in a crazed, skittering loop. This is what happened with John's ship, he yapped. And it's happening again. Lily felt sick. If he didn't escape now, when... Anna's voice crackled from the communications tube. Stoke the boiler! They're trying to board us! Lily looked round. Robert was scraping up the last of the coal dust and throwing it into the furnace. Soon there would be nothing left to burn. We're out of fuel, she cried down the communications tube. Chuck in the empty crates from your footlocker compartment, came Anna's curt and echoing reply. Lily rushed into the corridor and heaved out a pile of boxes, handing them to Robert, who smashed them against the side of the furnace and threw the fragments into the flames. The engine began pumping double time, the mechanical motor turning at full tilt, clanking its crazed, spidery arms. Did we break free? Robert asked. Lily glanced out of the side porthole, and she was met with a blast of bright light. No! She cried. Bearmouth was getting closer, pulling them in. The noise of her humming engines filled the cabin, rattling the fittings and shaking Lily's teeth and bones. She had to do something, and quick. She left Robert and mewling Malkin raced a few steps down the corridor and burst onto the bridge. Anna glanced round from the wheel. What is it? Lily grasped the wall. I have to go out there. Cut their line. Are you sure? Anna asked. It's dangerous. Lily nodded. It's the only way now, I think. Our engine power isn't strong enough. Anna nodded. Fine, do it. And cut loose all the scraps. Everything tied to the hull. It's holding us back. But be safe. Don't leave the ladder. Have you got something to break the lines? Lily undid her bundle and she pulled the hacksaw and the screwdriver from where they were stuffed in beside the box. Will these do? Aye, they will. Lily tucked them into her belt. Back in the passage, she struggled to open the cabin door. A blast of cold air battered against the wall, and she pulled the lever to lower the ladder. Outside, the wind whipped by. While she climbed out onto the highest rung, Bearmouth loomed at her elbow, preparing to fire more harpoons, and Ladybird bucked on her line, shuddering like a dying whale. Lily yanked the hacksaw from her belt and swung about on her ladder. Pulled taut across the narrowing airspace, the tow line cracked and groaned, brittle with frost, but the opposing pull of the two airships kept the line steady as Lily hacked at it again and again. The wind battered hard against her, trying to stop her efforts until her face stung with cold and her arm felt weary, ready to drop. Just a few more cuts and crack! The rope snapped and Ladybird bucked free, jerking forward, her propellers spiralling with a sudden burst of speed. Behemoth readied another harpoon. They weren't going to make it out of range unless Lily could lighten the load. Quickly, she began hacking at the hanging ballast. With every line she cut, tangles of scrap dropped away, and Ladybird's prop turned faster and faster. Soon, Anna's airship was jigging and zigging across the sky, rising above Behemoth's hull, so the harpooner in his hatch could not take aim at her. There was more rope of scrap ballast. Lily leaned forwards and hacked at it. The rope frayed but refused to break. The sharp-toothed pieces of jagged metal tied to its end clanked together, twirling in space. Lily leaned out further, slashing at the knot, the hacksaw loose in her slippery hand, cold sweat pouring down her back. Finally, the rope broke, and the last of the scrap plummeted and fell, bouncing off Behemoth's prow and scattering across the sky. Ladybird jolted, rising fast.